Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. My name is Taz Malik, and I'm the Regional Sales Director for Convene, a leading provider of software solutions for the global governance industry. It is my distinct pleasure to serve as the moderator for today's panel. We're pleased to have partnered with the Corporate Secretaries International Association Limited for this event. And our main topic will be going digital in the boardroom, where we will discuss some of the key considerations and challenges boards are facing today. First of all, I want to thank everyone for joining us. We actually got a really great turnout with people joining from all corners of the globe. So welcome. We're certainly excited to get into the topics. Now, before we do that, I wanted to quickly mention that at the end of the event, we will actually be having a special giveaway from Convene. So please stay tuned for that. Now, when boards discuss digitalization or digital transformation, the focus is usually on its impact to the organization as a whole. In today's webinar, we explore how digitalization affects the role of the board itself, the engagement of board members, and the legal implications boards must consider. As we all know, 2020 is a year none of us will soon forget. The COVID-19 pandemic swept across the globe, crippling economies and shattering the lives of millions. As we press on in 2021, we live in a world that has no choice but to adapt to the changing times. Although the vaccine has been rolled out, our healthcare professionals advise that the crisis is still far from over. So we will be dealing with the ramifications of this pandemic for some time to come. And that means that it won't necessarily just be business as usual. So while in the past we've seen it be normal for boards to allow some forms of remote participation in meetings, such as dialing into a conference call, but most of us were more accustomed to meeting with our directors in person. With all this in mind, today's webinar will dive into going digital in the boardroom with a number of distinguished panelists, which I'm very pleased to introduce you to now. So I'll actually start with a quick reintroduction of myself and my background. Again, my name is Taz Malik. I'm the Regional Sales Director for Convene. I've actually been with the company since 2018 and have led our sales efforts for the North American and Caribbean regions for both our board portal and AGM solutions. Prior to joining Convene, I actually ran a B2B digital publishing company with operations on 4 continents and 5 international publications. After selling the company, I refocused my career in the software industry. I'm very excited to be moderating this webinar today, and I'm joining from Toronto, Canada. Next up, we have Mr. Raymond Lam. He's a corporate restructuring lawyer with Drew & Napier, one of the largest law firms in Singapore, and the CEO of Drew Corp Services, Drew & Napier's corporate administration and secretarial services arm. He is also a fellow with the Chartered Secretaries Institute of Singapore and a member of its management committee. Raymond is an independent director and company secretary to several companies listed on the Singapore Stock Exchange. Raymond joins us from Singapore today. Welcome, Raymond.
Hi, welcome everybody. Thank you CSIA and Convene for their invitation to me. It's just after 2:30 p.m. in Singapore. I had the privilege of having lunch as compared to some of my other panelists. And I'm really looking forward to sharing more on digitization in the boardroom with all of you. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Raymond. Next, we have Mr. Nitin Poddar, senior corporate lawyer and M&A partner at J. Sugger Associates, a leading Indian law firm. He brings a wealth of experience in the areas of mergers and acquisitions, foreign direct investments, joint ventures, and foreign collaborations. Hailed by the Legal 500 as the most influential and significant lawyer in 2019, Nitin commands a rich and varied experience in spearheading key FDI transactions, India entry and consolidation strategies for MNCs and some of the largest Indian companies. He has also served membership stints with the International Bar Association, the Knowledge Western Region Startup Committee, the Committee of the Indian Merchants Chamber and Industry, and the CII Western Region Startup Committee. Nitin joins us from India today. Welcome, Nitin.
Thank you, Taj, for your kind introduction. And it is around 12 o'clock in India, and I really look forward for this fascinating conversation on the digitization. I look forward to participating wholeheartedly, Taj.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Look forward to getting your insights. Next up, we have Mr. Waweru Matenge, the chairman of the Institute of Certified Secretaries for Kenya, an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, and a longstanding certified secretary. He is a fellow of the Institute of Certified Secretaries Kenya and a member of the Law Society of Kenya. An accomplished company secretary and legal professional, he has a myriad of experiences gained in the banking and retail industries, as well as in private legal practice. Waweru joins us from Kenya today. Welcome, Waweru.
Thank you very much, Taz, and I'm very pleased to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I'm looking forward to a great engagement and also, responding to any questions and queries that the members present may have. Thank you
Yep,
very much.
absolutely. Great. Thanks, Weweru. Finally, co-hosting the event with me today is Ms. Zara Kasim, the CEO of the Corporate Secretaries International Association. Zara is responsible for coordinating the execution of the strategic goals and plans of the CSIA and has been a driving force for better recognition of the corporate secretary role while also promoting CSIA as the global voice for governance professionals worldwide. She brings a wealth of knowledge in the corporate secretarial space, as well as strategy and business management. Zara will be giving us a quick introduction on the CSIA before the panel commences. Zara joins us from South Africa today. Welcome, Zara.
Thank you for the introduction, Taz. And a very good morning to everyone that's joined us this morning from South Africa. Not as sunny as I'd hoped, but warm enough. And on behalf of our president, Mr. Ashish Gaj, and the CSIA Council, it is my pleasure to welcome the panelists today, the CSIA members and partners who are joining us, and also the members of the audience. We are really excited today to be collaborating with Convene to bring you this webinar on the impact of digitalization on boards and the response to it. This is a topic that is very relevant in today's, specifically during the pandemic. So we are looking forward to the insights from our panelists. We live in a world for the last few decades that has been termed the VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And for the last decade, the business world has been disrupted by constant governance failures, innovations, digitalization is one of those, and more recently, the global pandemic. So this has created risks that highlighted governance matters and concerns. And in these challenging times, the role of the corporate secretary has become increasingly critical as the custodian of governance. So the sector has grown tremendously over the last few decades. It's a sector that's worth around 36 billion US dollars and has an estimated probably over 250,000 professionals working in the sector in more than 100 countries. So in 2010, the Corporate Secretaries International Association Limited was formed to really provide a unified voice for all of these corporate secretaries and governance professionals across the globe. We celebrated a decade of existence last year, and through our members, we represent more than 100,000 corporate secretaries and governance professionals in more than 100 countries in the world. CSIA relocated from Geneva to Hong Kong in 2017, but our members are located all across the world, in Africa, North and South America, Asia, Europe, as well as Australia. So as an international federation of bodies, CSIA currently has 15 members. The full members range from Africa, where we have South Africa, Zimbabwe, Kenya, Nigeria, to India, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Singapore, and Bangladesh. We also have 6 affiliate members, Governance Institute of Australia, Canada, the US, the UK, Brazil, and Dubai. We are a relatively young organization, having only been in existence for 10 years. But through the collective expertise of our members, the 15 members that we have. Their experience and their expertise enable us to bring a global perspective to governance matters and to share the knowledge of governance practices from across the world. And the three main areas that we focus on is firstly, enhancing the profile of the corporate secretary and governance professional and promoting their role as a strategic partner to the board. In many jurisdictions, there is still a perception that this is a very administrative role. So part of what we do is to change that perception into an understanding that the roles become a lot more strategic. It also includes initiatives to recognize the corporate secretary as a governance professional, as well as to facilitate the establishment of institutions in countries where there is no formal support for corporate secretaries and governance professionals. Secondly, we also promote good governance practices. And again, the strength and uniqueness of CSIA lies in that collective expertise of our members. So we created a body of knowledge where there were standards, research reports, thought leadership reports that are being collected, and that is available on our website. So we're promoting it through research, thought leadership, and also best practice guidelines, which you can find on our website. And ultimately, we are growing a community of governance professionals by working together and promoting good governance on a global scale. There's still a lot of differences in governance practices all across the globe. And CSIA facilitates the understanding of this role in different areas by providing that global perspective on governance matters. Just a very short introduction to CSIA, but please also visit our website for more information. Thank you, Taz. Over to you.
Great. Thanks for that, Zara. Thank you for the introduction to the CSIA. Now, before we begin the panel, I wanted to quickly go over the format for today's event. So Convene has predetermined several topics for discussion, and we'll go through these one by one, getting insights from our panelists one at a time. This may also include some open discussion amongst panelists where applicable. After we complete the discussion on these topics, we will then have an open forum where we will be able to take questions from the audience for specific panelists or for the group at large. To ask a question, simply click below the webcast and type in your question. And also let us know if you're looking for a response from a specific panelist. Once the open forum is complete, we will have a closing address and we will basically wrap the call from there. So without further ado, our first discussion point is, why should we digitalize our boardroom, and what are the advantages and benefits of doing so? So we'll start with Raymond.
Thank you, Tess. Well, as you mentioned, that these are unprecedented times. There are global travel restrictions, and even within each country, there are travel restrictions restricting people from getting from one part of the country to another part of the country. And what the impact of this is that a lot of board meetings would not be possible without having some kind of a digital solution, right? We no longer can do meetings in the old-fashioned way of having a meeting in a boardroom with 10 or 12 board members. Things have changed. We are now moving into a digital world which is borderless, a digital world without any immigration requirements to get into. And the digitization, and once you're in this digital world and you digitize the boardroom settings, what it enables the board members to do is it enables the board members to continue functioning as a board, right? You get to interact, communicate with each other to ensure the company continues to operate, that there is proper governance over how the company is being ran. And this means that the company can continue to function, right? So that's the most important thing, I think, is that digitization is so essential now because it brings us into a digital world, and that digital world will allow us to continue the operations of the company. Maybe I just pass it to Nateen for
Absolutely.
his insights from India.
Great. Yep. Please.
Thank you. Thanks, Raymond. And thanks, Taj, for this question. As you mentioned, Raymond, in the last 9 months, global pandemic has it really disrupted lives of millions and toppled thousands of businesses. But we also saw a wave of digital transformation like never before. The COVID-19 has certainly fast-tracked the journey of digitization for the entire world by at least 2 to 4 years, according to I think so. And certain things may change forever. Uh, uh, Now, let's look at the positive side. We now have opportunity to reboot, not just reboot or reconstruct, but reimagine our global economy, environment, and education. And if you look at the board meetings, and as you rightly said, to me, the most significant changes of a board going digital is the ability of board members to participate seamlessly at board and management meetings and across the globe. And in India, particularly, there are no restrictions on getting any person appointed on any business board member or even as an invitee, as an external person for board meetings. So, for example, today, the entire board of any US or an European parent company may participate in the board meetings or their subsidiary or affiliate in India. Immediately there and immediately thereafter hold their board meetings.
Sure.
Similarly, senior management of their Indian subsidiaries can give presentation to the parent board. This would increase the interaction, to my mind, and also offer flexibility of decision making, and also get inputs on real time basis. That being significant change to the company. And
Great.
very Yeah.
That's great, Nateen. Thank you for that insight. Let's move over to Waweru from the kind of the Kenyan and African perspective.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Taz. So, in fact, it is very important actually for boards to digitize. I think the question was why, and uh, the way I would put it is the board sets the tone from the top. The board's role is to guide, to lead the organization, to provide oversight. And in this world that we're living in, where without digitization, certainly one's operations, one's processes will be hampered or hindered. It is important for the board to guide and provide that leadership from the top. So it is important for the board to digitize so that it remains relevant. It is able to offer that guidance and leadership. And then, the basic processes of the board can progress in a way as seamlessly as possible and in a way that will keep the organization relevant into the future.
Yep. Great. Thank you for those insights, guys. And we'll drill down and actually kind of everyone quickly discuss the COVID-19 pandemic. And along with that, rapidly changing market dynamics have undoubtedly pushed boards to accelerate and elevate their digitalization initiatives. Things that were talked about for maybe in a few years. These are now go items. So what are you guys seeing as the most significant changes when boards go digital? And I'll open that up to anyone that wants to tackle it.
Maybe I have a go at it first. I think the most important change that boards must have when they go digital is really in the mind. It's a mindset change. A lot of what they are familiar with previously would be different, right? You don't have a meeting face to face. The materials that are presented to you may not be in hard copy form. It could be sent via the digital solution that the board adopt. And it's really about board members having the correct mindset and the ability to want to accept the change, right? And once and once they accept the change, to be able to embrace it and then fully utilize the benefits that digitization can bring to in terms of efficiencies and all the benefits that comes along with having a digital meeting.
100%. Yeah, Raymond. And I, as you know, we work in the board portal space. So one of the biggest barriers is for people to accept that this is happening, right? People are so used to what they're used to that the making a change is always the hardest part. So we see that 100%. Nateen, Waweru, anything you want to kind of add on that specific topic?
Yeah, I may add to the dynamics of digital board meeting is that people to begin with may become little bit worry what it will become they may become nervous about the attending the board meetings via digital because of the serious most challenge according to me is the confidentiality. you know
Sure.
in a physical meeting, you would not only discuss the agendas but also you discuss a lot of other things. You raise concerns, you raise serious concerns in the physical meetings. You
Sure.
express very seriously in the board meetings, and you know that there are a lot of stuff which don't go as a part of the board meeting proceedings. They don't get recorded in the minutes of the board meetings because these are very extremely volatile topics, information, and confidential issues. Now, to my mind, suddenly from there, you are facing a board where every word that you speak, or every action, your face is going to get closely recorded virtually. Your action, your reaction going to get recorded. And under in the Indian Companies Act situation, so the secretary is obliged to write in the minutes everything what is getting discussed. So that,
Sure.
to my mind, is a very serious dynamic change where board members will have to adopt, accept and modulate, have flexibility. It will take, it's a
Yeah.
learning process to my mind, but
Yeah.
I guess there are a lot of benefits, which of course we will talk a little later on the digitization of board.
100%. Yeah, I agree. And Waweru, from the
Ye-
African perspective, have you seen a lot of this stuff happening, or and kind of what are people having in terms of change when they're going digital in your region?
Yeah. Well, thank you. Certainly, I think there has been that challenge. Raymond talked of the change, a mindset shift
Yeah.
that has had to happen pretty quickly. But what we have seen is that the adoption of digitalization in this part of the world has been very quick. I
Yep.
think people have adapted very fast and have basically adopted it as sort of now the normal thing to the point that. I think people are saying now, what did we used to do before? How did we used to work before? This is indeed a very quick and efficient way of working. Um, but yes, there was that initial hesitance or reluctance to adopt digitalization, with most
Sure.
boards being of the conservative sort. The people within the boards are very conservative,
Sure.
and so being asked to adopt this new way of engaging
Yeah.
certainly was a bit of a challenge.
Challenge.
Uh,
Yeah.
but it has been quick. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And that's great. And you kind of touched on something that we see a lot in the board portal spaces. Especially with these more conservative or larger, multinational corporations that have been around a lot. The makeup and composition of the board certainly plays into that, right? Because if you're dealing with a company that's in the tech space, for instance, and their average age of their employees is 40 years old, their adoption is going to be a lot quicker and easier than a company where the average board member is maybe 65 or 70 years old, right? So the board composition and makeup, I think, certainly will play into that as well. Now, moving to the next kind of question on the same topic, when boards go digital, a worry some directors face is that productivity may go down. So as a result, and I think Nateen was quickly kind of touching on this, as a result, crucial decisions may be delayed. Things are put on the back burner that maybe from a strategic standpoint should have been actually looked at now or acted on at this point. So how can digitalization actually help to enhance board effectiveness and increase board productivity? And I'll leave that to anyone, whoever wants to tackle it first.
Uh, I would think that whilst I did mention that the concerns about the board members of participating in the board meeting, but Having said this, I must say, and that I have seen very closely in couple of board meetings in the recent past, the decision making has become very fast. It has become
Good.
very quick and more meaningful,
Yep.
because I have been attending couple of board meetings in India about these are the affiliates or subsidiaries of the foreign multinational companies in
Yep.
US and Europe, and the participation has increased, because earlier, as Raymond mentioned, that we don't need visa. It's a it's a borderless participation. So I am seeing a lot of technical personnel from the parent company, so and a lot of other management people are freely just entering or participating at the board meetings. And so larger this digitization has ensured larger participation, larger exchange of critical information, and that has
Sure.
in fact helped the quick decision making.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. And that's a great insight. Well, Raymond, anything to kind of add to that?
Yeah, I think I would agree with Nitin on that. I think we have seen, rather than a decline in productivity, we have seen an increase or enhancement in productivity. The speed of execution or consideration of resolutions which are presented to the board has been made much quicker. I think in terms of the number of issues that can be brought to the board, that has also become quite quick and fast. And the board is very well informed and can quickly raise issues, and they're responded to quickly on the digital spaces. So we have seen productivity increase. I think one area which perhaps not very common, but we have seen it in some of the places we've been, is the engagement levels. Where because it's very easy to sort of appear like you're in a meeting, but you're actually not there. You could be doing something else. That level of engagement sometimes can be an issue. And so it's sort of something that a chair of a board has to really be alive to and sort of call people to order when he sees people drifting that way in the context of a meeting. But yeah, in terms of response times, in terms of productivity, I think on the whole, there has been an increase.
Great.
Yeah, I agree with Nitin and what Mareru has said. I just one point that I just want to tell our participants about is perseverance, right? The effectiveness and productivity doesn't happen overnight once you adopt the digital solution, right? There is a teething period, and that teething period is the learning period. And that learning period, everyone in the board is just trying to get familiar with the solution, the digital solution. And there might be a little bit of learning process that takes a bit of time and get used to. But if the members persevere with it, and I think in the long run, you will see the benefits and how much more effective a digital solution would be if they have not, compared to if they have not used it and stuck with more traditional methods. And
Sure.
like what Tess has mentioned earlier, one of the things is that the different solutions, right, that they adopt is going to, there's a different learning curve, right? But, yep. It's training that's important. And once everybody knows how to use the software and the hardware, then it's going to be definitely going to be a tool for
absolutely.
all.
Yeah, definitely, Raymond, and you hit it on the head there. It is something that, and every company is going to have their own strategy to this, how they choose to do it. And, again, some of that will go based on the composition of their board. Others will go on existing technology solutions that you're using already. So, I know one of the benefits with Convene is that we have a number of enterprise integrations that we offer for, SharePoint and other repositories that companies are using, stuff like that. So not only can you take the leap, but you can also work with stuff that you're already used to working with. So that's something that I think definitely weighs into it and into your strategy. So we were going to talk a little bit about board efficiency, but we kind of already hit on that already with the last question. So my last one on this topic before we move to the next discussion point is digitalization can have profound effects on existing employee functions. So some people are actually concerned that digitizing administrative processes may lead to actually laying off staff. How does digitalization redefine the jobs and roles of those with administrative functions?
So, you're right. First of all, it is not correct to say that the jobs will go away. I
Yep,
think
for sure.
typically the board will face three distinct challenges. One is adoption of right technology.
Yep.
And here I would really suggest companies to invest in the right product and be open to invest more if they are not somehow not got the right product. It is possible that you may not get a right product in the first instance, first go. So you should be, treat that as a learning curve and be open to invest. The more better investment you do in the right technology, I think, you are really going to get the best out of it. Secondly, second most important point to my mind is training the admin staff to handle the technology.
Yep.
We in many companies I have seen we adopt technology, we take technology, but we don't spend enough time training the admin staff. So
Yep.
to my mind, training the admin staff and keeping a backup line of support and everything is extremely important. And these are again teething problems in next 6 months or 4 or 5 months. If we really invest right time in the right talent, I think we are done. And
Yep.
third most important thing is training the board members to participate and offering them a total assurance about confidentiality is critical. So training the admin staff and training also the board members how to participate, and that is very, to my mind, very critical. So I don't think so. The fears that the employees will lose jobs or otherwise is well founded. In
Sure.
fact, right investment is important.
Agreed. Yeah, and Nateen, I think what I've found as well in dealing with so many different types of boards is that it's probably more a misconception than anything. It's not necessarily the truth of the matter is that people are going to lose their jobs. I think in general that's not necessarily just from digitization. We're going through a pandemic, the economy is down, so people are losing jobs for a number of reasons. But I doubt that digitization is one of the main reasons. So well, Raymond, any of your specific experiences you've seen with, administrative functions and whatnot as it relates to the boards?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, it's not so much that administrative roles will fall away. Rather, they'll be done in a different way.
Sure.
So, for instance, if it is preparing board packs, which is maybe considered an administrative duty,
Yep. Definitely.
you move from paper-based, preparation of packs to the digital space, where you have to learn sort of new skills to actually work the technology so that you're able to prepare the board pack. So it's not so much that the role falls away, but it's changed in the way it is done. And
Yep.
so what Nitin mentioned about training becomes very important so that the administrative functions are carried out effectively and efficiently.
Agreed. Raymond, anything to add? Yep.
Yeah, well, in Singapore, the government is always constantly telling the population to upskill, right? And what
Yep.
upskill means is that you train yourself to learn a new skill or do what skills you have better, right?
Yep.
And once you are able to do that, you create more value in the work that you do. And once you create more value, then your role becomes more valuable and definitely almost something that a company cannot do without, right? And
Exactly. Yep.
and exactly like what Waweru has said about the board packs. We're just doing it in a different form. So you just go to
Exactly.
upskill from photocopying
Yep.
into PDFing, right?
Yep.
So that really is it. Upskilling yourself, make yourself indispensable to the company, and there will be more jobs that you can keep your
100%.
job, just doing it a different way.
Exactly. Yeah. And we see that. And everyone kind of touched on one of the most important things that I see in my job every day is training, right? You're used to doing something one way for 10 years or something like that. and you're now asked to do it in a different way. So right away, you know, it can be overwhelming, it can be stressful, and whatnot, but choosing the right partner, so you know, the right providers, the right technology solutions to complement what your staff's skills already are, is a big part of the equation. So I think it's really important when you are deciding on what technology solutions to use, that you really think out and figure out who are the people that are going to be using the solution, who's going to be actually, you know, on the admin side, who's going to be, you know, from the board side, and then, you know, kind of marrying those two functions together so that you can optimize the use of the technology. So great, thank you guys so much for that. That kind of concludes the first general topic. Our next discussion point is, what challenges will boards face when dealing with technology, and how can boards overcome these challenges? I know we kind of touched a little bit on it, but we'll kind of expand more on the technology side of the conversation for this next section. So Raymond, if you want to tackle that one first.
Right. I think the main challenge that boards will face is really the familiarity with the technology, getting into terms with the technology, and optimizing the use of this technology. And how can they overcome this challenge is really what we have mentioned, it's through training. I give you an example.
Sure.
I had a call with one of my team members right at the start of the pandemic, when there was a circuit breaker in Singapore and all of us have to stay at home. Everyone would then have to learn how to use Zoom, correct?
Yep.
And
Yep.
how to use the camera function, which we are all very familiar with. One of my team members kept having a problem with the video, right? No video. I spent an hour going through restarting Zoom many times, or WebEx many times. We couldn't find a solution. We went ahead without the video for this particular person. 1.5 hours later, we realized that her camera was turned on because there was a little switch at the top covering the micro lens, you know?
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, these are certain things that there's one thing is training, right? Training, teaching everyone how to use the technology, not just the software, which what we're talking about, but also the hardware, right?
Yep.
Right. Teaching them how to use the phone to join a meeting, the iPad to join a meeting, laptop to join a meeting, and use the camera, speakers. So all this is all part of and parcel of an ecosystem of what the training must encompass. And
Sure.
like what you mentioned just now, depending on the average age of the board, you might have to go into the fundamentals or a little bit medium range, right? So you have to pack your training to the right audience. So for my case, right, I have a diverse group, age group of members, team members. So I try to peg it in a mid-level, but I realized that I have to really go down, a certain level to make sure that, we get the video and audio working for everybody. So that's just a simple example of how important training is. And, I can't emphasize more on once you adopt a digital solution, that there is training given to everyone, right?
Yep.
Not just the person using the technology, but the support staff who would be supporting the use of the technology. And once you have that in place, then you will be able to harness the benefits and the advantages that a digital solution can bring.
Great. Yeah, thanks for that, Raymond. Nitin, anything to add to that? Or
no, yeah, Raymond has really touched really the hardcore issues which the board say. But speaking for me from India, I would say the biggest challenge in India is the cost. Let me give you some numbers. So we have around 4.5 to 5 million. I'm told it is now 6 million roughly SME, MSMEs and startups in India.
Okay.
Now you can imagine 6 million startups in India, and out of them, even if you take half the companies, half the startups or SME, MSMEs are in the form of companies, in the form of a corporate company, and they will all want to have this. They will all need to have this kind of setup. So you can imagine the amount of investment, and these are small companies. They are currently, because of the pandemic, they all are struggling their struggle of existence. So how do
Yeah.
you really, how do you meet their expectations? And it is not just the free Zoom which is available, or some Google Meet is available. It is also a lot of infrastructure that goes in. Everyone needs to have good laptops. Everyone has to have internet connectivity. That's to my mind, a bigger challenge for
Yeah,
at least in India. Secondly,
for sure.
two things more important I would like to bring to your notice. And one is, every board member or many of us are using personal email IDs.
Sure.
We use a lot of personal phone numbers for communication. Now that poses a serious challenge of confidentiality to my mind. We need to find some technological fix to that. And
Sure.
third most important issue is that, if you see globally, just the 2 weeks back in US, there was a clampdown on internet in Washington for a couple of hours. In India yesterday, we had a issue in Delhi. We had the internet shut down in Delhi for half a day or maybe one day.
Hmm.
Now, if you are going to have internet drop downs like this because of uncertain events, or even for any technological reason, if we are not able to get internet connectivity, that these are some of the major challenges which smaller companies will face in a larger scale.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No, and those are great points, Natine. And it's funny how these certain problems are definitely on a regional basis. I know in India, that not all regions of the country have the greatest internet versus
Yes.
some of like the major cities, and Singapore maybe not as much, but maybe up in the northern parts it's not as stable or whatever, right? Well, what is your experience been with these challenges in Kenya?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, certainly, the challenges I mentioned, issue of, the systems themselves, which system is the right system to choose for the organization, that becomes a challenge. And it actually assumes an understanding of, systems and technology and what is right
Yeah.
for the organization. So that's one hurdle. And once you overcome it, you get to the next hurdle of the skills that are required to actually operate the system that has been identified. Connectivity has been talked about, those technical challenges. But when you overcome that now, when you start using the system, I think there's also a challenge where, uh, you know, I don't know whether to call it abuse or over enthusiasm in the use of the system. For instance, when preparing for board meetings, at what point do you say we've given enough information to the board for them to be able to make decisions? So there's a risk of just dumping a lot of information for the board's consideration
Sure.
because it's a digital platform. There's no cost to uploading documents, and that may sort of hamper the decision making abilities of the board. So that I think is another challenge that comes after all the sort of preliminary challenges have been overcome. Now the normal, when it comes to what you may call the normal operations of the board, there's
Sure.
that particular issue that may come up.
Yeah, no, that's great. And what we were that actually kind of goes right into our next point. So, with the intro of new technology, governance has never been more dynamic than in the past. How are these new and emerging technologies affecting the role of board directors, both in their scope and how they execute it? So, anyone, that's open to anyone, and if anyone wants to tackle it, I know some of this stuff is kind of touching on some of the same topics. So, if anyone wants to kind of give a go at that one.
I would think, and as you mentioned earlier also during the discussion, the governance is certainly digitizing going to help improve governance. And that is because you will need to have at least a good mix of board members. You will need to have younger board members. You will need to have diversified board members. And
Yeah,
because of the flexibility of your ability and flexibility to take more and more people at the board meetings, you don't need to restrict the board meetings only to the board members. You can have
sure.
invitees,
Yep.
technical invitees to the board meeting. So therefore, to my mind, governance is definitely going to improve.
Sure.
And if we are able to really improve the connectivity and improve put a right technology, imagine a situation where a floor manager or an operations head comes and gives a presentation to the board. So instead of that, he could actually take us to the operations level. He could actually take us to the factory. And sitting at the board meeting, we could actually virtually see the entire factory operations running. We can talk to the people directly, or they're on the floor managers, operation managers. So to my mind, the board will be much more engaged, much more informed with the actual operations of the companies, right on the floor level, whether it's security level, regulatory risk, manufacturing level. So engagement of the board with technology can really improve and help. That, to my mind, improves the governance.
I agree. I agree with you, Nitin. And one of the things I was thinking as well, and especially this is maybe more relevant for companies that have operations in a lot of different countries. You know, a lot of these executives are traveling, you know, from Singapore to Malaysia to Hong Kong to Indonesia, and they're always traveling to and from places to do their meetings. And now, you know, you can do that much more efficiently without ever having to, you know, again, we said the term borderless. It really is, you know, we have all of us four and, you know, completely different parts of the country having a very informed and engaged discussion. And, you know, we don't need to get on a plane. We don't need to get a visa. And, you know, I don't even know the visa requirements for the, you know, all the countries except Singapore, because I've been there. But, you know, you know, there's a lot of benefits to the digital aspect. So anyone else? I think we kind of touched on that already a lot. So why don't we just move on to the next thing, which is going digital in the boardroom opens up many new opportunities, but it can also introduce a set of challenges to the boards. What are the main, I guess, outside of training and stuff like that, what are the other challenges you're seeing from digitalization? Like, is there anything specific that's you know in your regions?
Maybe I can just start off that I think that with digitization, the pace and of engagement with the directors and the level of involvement with the directors increases many times, many folds. And the speed at which the directors need to make decisions and to give instructions have also, the time that they have is also shortened, right? It used to be, oh, we wait for the meeting before we decide what to do, right? Now we can have a meeting just like that, right? Let's do a Zoom now, whether you're in a car, whether you are in your bedroom, or whether you're out, you can have a meeting, right? You can have that meeting, and with everybody looking at each other, we can make a collective decision. So what that means is that the director's role becomes a lot more important. Directors need to be a lot more engaged in the whole process, and therefore, in terms of governance, that it can only be better because there's more access now to the directors, and directors will also have to react in a faster manner, right? Because digitization just means everything just goes that much quicker.
Yep, 100%. Well, Wei-Ru, anything to add?
I think, I think probably I could pose a sort of a dilemma that some boards are probably facing at the moment because of that very reason that, you know, now information is very easily accessible. You can have meetings at very short notice from wherever you are. You can go down to the shop floor and meet with the people at the shop floor. But you know, for you know, it's a sort of the concept of a board of directors has always been, you know, one of oversight. They don't get necessarily involved in the actual day-to-day running of the organization. But with digitization, you find that they'll get a lot closer to the organization and a lot closer to the operations. Yes, and so it sort of blurs the role between the board and management, you know, that distinction. At what point do you draw the line between the role of the board and the role of management? Or are we seeing here a situation where the role of the board is being redefined to get much closer and deeper into the operations of the organization? Probably that's something that boards need to consider and ponder over. Because truly digitization is changing, or it appears to be changing the role of the board from just pure oversight to a little more involvement in the organization.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's great insight. Now, moving on to the next thing, and or Nitin, did you have anything you want to add, or did you want to kind of move on to the next
No, we can
next
move
question?
on.
Yep.
That's good
Okay.
enough.
Great. So what my next question was, when boards do actually make the choice to move forward with digitalization, as we know, the hardest part is actually knowing where to start. What are the next steps to take? A lot of times these people aren't necessarily experts on it. What do you think that boards need to consider when they make the decision to go digital? What do you think are like the kind of the few top topics that they need to really look into before they select a vendor or something like that?
So, to my mind, as I said, I'm talking for India, and also I'm talking on behalf of all the small scale and SME companies or mid-sized companies, and particularly the startups globally. The challenge with them is the cost. So they need to really factor the cost that is involved. But at the same time, I would think there is a big advantage, and there is I would say, a big new opportunity for companies really to go digital, because what it offers is, if the board meetings are recorded and if they are available subsequently for board members or even the management, lower management, to understand certain things, they can hear, they can see the live discussions, and there's so much of learning from that. Many times there is a huge disconnect between the board decisions or the board management, and as Varengu said, there is a you come go closer to the organization, and that's good to my mind, because the management, the person on the shop floor also will understand that, look, there is so much of learning when the decisions are taken. What's the
Yep.
thought process? What's the vision of the board, of the management? What the independent directors, what did they think about the company? You go
Yep.
paperless, and everything is available to you live. So there
Yep.
is a huge learning experience, to my mind, to the management and company, or even for the board. If you
Yeah.
look at the recording of having what happened in the 3 years past down the line or 4 years down the line, you yourself will know, oh, this was the reason, particularly when that's the reason why we took certain decisions.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Anyone else want to add anything to that, or?
I think it's important for the board to adopt a solution that is suitable for the particular company.
Yep.
Don't just take the solution that is the most spec'd up solution, right? But find a
Yep.
solution that works for the company. It may not be the most advanced, right? It may not be the one with the most buttons, bells and whistles,
Yep.
but find something that would suit everybody, and what is the common denominator of all your board members. And
Yep.
once you can get that, I think then that board solution, the digital solution, it is going to be widely accepted by everyone. And then
Yep.
and everybody will be very quick to adopt.
Definitely. Waweru, anything to add to that?
Really, I don't think there's really much more that one can say about that.
Yeah.
Just choose the right system that works for you.
Yeah.
Um, then maybe you want to define, if for instance, the organization already has some sort of system for its own operations.
Sure.
What kind of how would you want to tweak it so that it produces appropriate reports for the
Yep.
board? And how will that now tie in or interface with the board system that is chosen? So this is
Yep.
some of the considerations.
That's a really great point, Waweru, and again, going back up to my own experience, when companies are making the decision to go digital, and specifically if they're looking at a board portal, there's a lot of products out there, and as Raymond alluded to, you don't just because, let's say, you're a big company, you don't just necessarily just buy the one that's the most expensive or the one that has all the bells and whistles. You have to actually kind of evaluate what's your board composition, what's going to work best for our administrators, what's going to work with the systems and software that we already have in place, right? So are we already using Dropbox? Are we already using a specific, are we using Zoom for our audio video, right? Can the solution integrate with that? And then also, one of the things that Nitin specifically talked a little bit about throughout the meeting was security, confidentiality, right? A lot of times these board meetings meetings have very sensitive materials, financial data, even, in specific types of company IP, stuff that needs to be protected. So security is another aspect that you really want to be looking at when you make the decision to go digital. And again, it'll go based on what your company's needs are and the specific organization or the specific industry maybe that you're in. So that's all I have for that. Now, we're about halfway through all of the discussion points. I just wanted to give a quick update for anyone that joined us a bit late. We will be doing a special giveaway at the end of the meeting, so just stay tuned for that. As we scroll through, we're going to go to the next discussion point here, and it's an area that you guys are all experts in. So what are the legal and compliance aspects we should consider when we digitalize our boardroom? So we'll start with Raymond there.
Okay, let me, maybe I explain a little bit, talk a little bit about the Singapore context.
Sure.
We were very fortunate that once last year, when the pandemic really peaked, the Singapore government then installed a circuit breaker in Singapore in April. About a month after that, the Singapore government came up with a set of COVID-19 temporary measures legislation, which is supposed to help us tide through this COVID-19 period. And one piece of legislation is the alternative meeting legislation, regulations, right? And it basically sets out how meetings, for company meetings, can be held in the current situation, right? Which means in a digital form. There are provisions that in that legislation for convening of meeting, how attendance is supposed to be counted, how we deal with the right of shareholders and board members to speak, and how documents are laid before the meeting participants. And also there are specific regulations on how quorum will be counted, right?
Sure.
And the most important thing, there are quite specific rules on voting, the proxy forms and how proxy forms are being counted and received by the company. And lastly, it also deals with how accounts and other documents are considered laid before the meetings in a digital format. So in Singapore, we're quite fortunate, like I said, a lot of these regulations are in place. We have very clear regulations on how to conduct meetings digitally. For a bigger picture and in the future, what the government has already started up with amendments to the Singapore Companies Act. They are looking at having digital meetings specifically allowed under the Companies Act in Singapore. We think that this will happen by the end of this year.
Right.
So by then, it would be, regardless of what your constitution would say, the law will allow for digital meetings.
Sure.
I leave it to Nadine and Waweru to tell us a little bit more about their jurisdictions and
Yeah.
the landscape over there.
Sure. Yeah.
Certainly. Yeah. Yes. I think the situation in Singapore, I think we're also pretty fortunate in Kenya. What we found was a concerted effort from government, from the regulators, and even the judiciary in creating that enabling environment where companies could continue to hold meetings, albeit in virtual format, digital format. And what we found, our Companies Act, although it did not specifically provide for virtual meetings, it did provide for the courts. There's a specific provision where the courts could order that a meeting could be conducted in one manner or another. And on the basis of that provision, the courts actually came and allowed virtual meetings. The regulators quickly followed suit and said, for listed companies, in view of the COVID-19 restrictions that have been imposed, virtual meetings can be held and will be considered virtual, valid meetings. And they gave guidelines on how that could be done. And they even opened up and were ready to review systems that would be used and provide approval for the use of those systems. And so, it progressed, I think, very well, very quickly. All companies had to do was write to the regulator, and they would be allowed to hold meetings virtually. Now we are seeing, there's a move by the State Law Office to amend the Companies Act to provide specifically for the holding of virtual meetings or hybrid meetings. That's meetings which are both virtual and physical. And so I think that concerted effort made it possible for companies to continue meeting their statutory obligations to hold the meetings, for boards also to hold meetings, and for the business of organizations to continue seamlessly.
Yep, definitely. Great. Yeah, it sounds like you're a similar boat to Raymond, and the government were really on top of everything
Well,
pretty quickly. Nitin, what's the situation in India?
so I must say that we are, fortunately, when we had a complete new set of Companies Act in 2013,
Okay.
and in 2013 Act itself, we are in 21 now, but in 2013, some 8-9 years back itself, we had our Companies Act was completely replaced. A new set was replaced, and we did provide at that time a legal framework for holding video conferencing, audio visual conferencing for board meetings, not for the shareholders meeting though at that time. So this concept was very much there since 2013. It's a legally valid concept.
Yep.
And fortunately, the company secretary, the Institute of Company Secretaries also came up with the regulations and the framework of how do you really conduct a board meeting, which is virtual. And during this pandemic, the rules have been further amended, further relaxed. We have followed, not followed, but we are there is a lot of precedents from Netherlands, from France. So currently, as Raymond mentioned, yes, there are proper regulations for of course, counting quorum, counting proxy, how do you record the meetings, but there's a lot of flexibility available to the board, to my mind. Now,
Yep.
I would like to, honestly, I would like to really, Taj, take this opportunity and bring in Zara here for a minute if she's available. But I must say that the Institute of the CSIA, if possible, this is the today's discussion is really a path-breaking and a pioneering discussion to my mind. If we can take it forward and create, and I'm willing to offer myself, I'm sure Raymond also will be willing to offer. We are willing to offer some kind of pro bono work for the Institute of CSIA, that we should come out with the standard guidelines globally for the various countries to think, at least, that look, these if we follow the standard regulations or standard rules for how to conduct board meetings, how to record board meetings, what are the preferred technologies that we can adopt, and the whole legalization of this digital process, I think that will help, because of the globalization, we are having a French company having a subsidiary in India. We're having US companies having subsidiaries or affiliates in India, in Singapore, globally. Everyone
Yep.
is doing global business. Now, you can't have different rules for holding board meetings for different countries. So if the Institute wants to take any step here to come up with some kind of draft regulations or draft rule or some recommendations, at least I'm sure, I can talk for myself, I will be very happy to support CSI's activity in that front.
Yeah, that's great. Did Zara want to jump in with any comments to that end?
Thank you, Nitin, for that opportunity. It's an interesting question because it's also been raised before in the context of global governance and whether we should have global standards for governance. But similarly to governance, digital technology spans a lot of different regulatory regimes. And I think this can also cause a lot of transversal challenges. A lot of big businesses, as you've mentioned, they operate in a lot of different countries. So there's a huge global reach. But there is often a mismatch between the different regulatory frameworks that exist. And we've talked a little bit about some of them that is there currently in the different jurisdictions, and also different industries, different frameworks that apply to different industries. And I think the other factor that one must consider when you're thinking about standardization is that the pace of digitalization that we've also talked about earlier and the impact that that has on societies and markets are very different in different countries. So in a sense, it would be a good idea to have a guideline, but it is also, you have to take into account the pace at which some markets and some countries are moving in terms of digitalization, not to impose on them certain regulations or restrictions that they're not able to cope with. So I think it's something, excuse me, that we'd be happy to have a look at in terms of a research project. So if that is an offer on the table, we're happy to look at it. But as I say, one must consider those factors when you're thinking of something like standardization of digitalization.
No, thank you, Zara, for that. And all that I'm saying is that technology moves very fast. It is the other constituents, namely people like the lawyers, the chartered accountants. The industry needs to move and keep pace with the technology. So only from that perspective, I thought that it will be really a good for organization like CSIA, because you have 100 representatives from 100 countries. So if we can prepare some kind of a draft paper, or it need not be for forced regulation, but it can be some kind of a research project, as you rightly said. It can be a research project recommended to the various governments. It will help, to my mind.
Yeah.
Instead of people reinventing the wheel, it will help them as to with the experiences of people like Raymond, Waberu, yourself, and we all can contribute to that effort.
Yeah. That's a. Sorry, go ahead, Zara.
No, I think as a basic guideline, that's a good idea, and team, and we can talk about doing that as a project for CSIA this year. I think it's quite relevant.
I'm sorry, slightly diverse.
No problem at all, Natine. We do want to keep an open discussion here. At the end of the day, from my perspective, one of the things that I thought, as you mentioned, that was some of the stuff that Convene does. So we do, like white papers and different things that are there. It's not like we're saying, hey, you should just go buy Convene. It's more like, oh, if you're considering going digital, what do you need to consider, right? So because like we mentioned, and I think all of the panelists have touched on this at one point or another, we have different challenges in different regions with different types of board members, with administrative people, right? So it's a tall task for someone that's, kind of new to it. So as, us as a vendor in the space, we make it a point for us to put out information, and we actually have clients in over 100 countries as well. So, we are pretty well versed. We do have clients in all of your countries, all of your respective countries. So, we do have a pretty good reach. But obviously, again, a lot of other people are using different board portals and stuff. But I think, from a technology perspective, the vendors need to be out there as well, kind of promoting the conversation and talking about how we can make changes and do things to make it easier for people to adopt these technologies. So, but no, that's a great point, Natina, and that is something definitely that if you and Zara and the CSIA can talk about some stuff about that offline later, that would be hugely beneficial, I'm sure, for the members. So, as we kind of carry along here, we just have a few more discussion points, and then we'll go to the open forum. So corporate secretaries are usually the ones in charge of obviously ensuring these meetings are compliant with organization bylaws and regulations. How can corporate secretaries ensure digital meetings and other digital board processes pass legal muster? And so I'll open that to anyone. What are your thoughts on that specifically, as lawyers?
I think let me give it a go. One of the things which has been alluded to is the need for sort of adapting the legal requirements to the digital space. And that calls us for what one might call having a sort of standardized way of running your meetings that will pass, legal master. One of the things that we have done in Kenya, and this is through the Institute, is that we have issued guidelines on holding of virtual meetings. These are both shareholder meetings and also board of director meetings. And that has gone through a very robust process of engagement with the industry stakeholders. so that it covers, or it meets the requirements of the current legal regime. So the importance of having a standard way of doing things, I think, is one of the ways that you can ensure that you meet the requirements of your specific legal jurisdiction. Yeah, that's how it's.
Okay, great. No, that's great insight, Waweru. Natine, Raymond, anything to kind of add on that, or?
No, yeah, Raymond, go ahead.
Go ahead, Natine.
No, in India, the corporate secretary, we have Institute of Company Secretaries, and they have a robust, properly identified role of the company secretary, and the rules are very elaborately framed. There are FAQs on how do you hold board meetings and shareholders meetings, and there's a lot of flexibility available. And I can only say, without going into the details, because we don't have that much of time, but I would say there is a lot of flexibility available to the company secretaries to hold these board meetings and shareholders meetings. And also it allows the basic key theme around these regulations is transparency. At every stage, all that the government wants or all the regulator wants is to maintain transparency and participation from all concerned. Whether it is a board meeting, then all the board members need to understand the agenda, understand the process, and participate wholeheartedly. Similarly, with the shareholders meetings also, we need to make sure that all the documents are shared with the shareholders. They understand the agenda, they understand what's the process, what's the agenda, and who is going to take it forward. So long as the process and the entire agenda papers are given and shared with the board and the shareholders, that's fine. There's a lot of flexibility available in India.
Yep. Okay, great. And Raymond, anything to add, or?
Well, in Singapore, the thing for the secretaries is that I think that they all must be aware of the regulations that are governing digital meetings. And so in that regard, the Chartered Secretaries Institute of Singapore, who is also a member of CSIA, has been trying to educate, disseminate information about the regulations to its members, to the secretaries, right?
Sure.
The regulators themselves has also published these regulations on their websites, and it's easily available, right? So the thing, what they need to do really is to make sure that they are aware of the rules, read what the rules say, right? And ensure that the meetings that they are conducting, right? The meetings that they are administering, right, are in compliance with all the rules that are set out in the regulations in Singapore.
Sure. Yep. No, that's great. And that kind of closes out that topic. So we're actually on to our final discussion point before the open forum. So the last discussion point is, how can digitalization help in mitigating risks and promoting regulatory compliance? So I'll send that over to Waweru. Do you want to actually start that one off?
In terms of when a board is adopting digital methods of doing its work, one of the critical areas it needs to consider is security, cyber security. That's one of the risks, which is quite let's say it's quite enhanced when one goes digital. So the board needs to really apply its mind to that and apply its mind to the various mitigations in terms of security software that needs to be put in place, protocols for access to the system need to be considered, and how to mitigate risk of loss in case the systems are penetrated. So all that has to be considered so that those risks are minimized.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so that is one of the risks that in my view that needs to be really at the forefront of the board.
Sure. Yep. Definitely. Raymond, Natine, anything to add? I know that's kind of one of the most important ones, especially with everything going on from a cybersecurity, where we're hearing about some of the most technologically forward companies getting hacked even, right? So I know security is certainly a hot topic, but Raymond, Natine, anything you want to specifically go into?
Yes, Tess, actually I'm going to try to change role with with you, I'm going to throw the question back at you actually.
Okay.
As a software guy, you know, what are some of the risks that a software solution should mitigate? You know, what are some of the key safeguards that these software solutions should have, and what should be board members and boards be looking at, you know, when selecting appropriate software, right?
Yep. Great. Thanks. And thanks for that, Raymond. And thanks for putting me on the spot. I love it. So that's awesome, actually. And you know what? I talk about this stuff every day. So for me, it's all second nature. So I love it. One of the things that I'm seeing a lot is, you know, when we're starting these introductory calls with people that are looking into digitalizing, is, you know, you're getting a lot of questions about security first and foremost. That's one of the most important things. So where are your servers stored? Is it a cloud-based solution? Is it on-premise, right? So we do have clients in different fields. Like, so for instance, in the financial sector, I work a lot in the Caribbean. So some of my clients are central banks in different countries. And so all of their IT systems, they're all housed in their buildings, right? So they don't use, a cloud service provider for their deployments. They want it all in their own servers, right? So that's one thing. So cloud versus on-premise and how you're hosting it. The other things are the levels of access that people are going to have, right? So while we were kind of alluded to that, not everyone needs the same level of access in the system, and then also controlling how they get access to it. So using things like single sign-on, using other tools that are already out there like Active Directory and an LDAP for authentication. So these types of things are certainly in the conversation for things that people want to discuss and risks that they want to look at. So those are the main ones I see. Again, you're going to get a lot of different types of companies with different types of questions. So like, for example, in the US, HIPAA compliance. So companies that have, documents to do with healthcare and stuff like that. The system needs to be HIPAA compliant in order for them to even use our system, right? So we have to actually stay abreast of what's going on in the different regions that we operate in, and also continue to develop our software and not just stay stagnant, right? Because if the landscape is ever changing, if we just stay the same, we're just going to fall behind. So that's a big part of what Convene does is continue to stay ahead of the curve. We talk directly to our customers. They give us their insights, the challenges they're facing with new regulations and new things happening and changing. So that's kind of my take on it. What did that get up to your standard, Raymond?
Yeah. I mean, just to the participants, I mean, it's really whether to one particular point that has mentioned is whether you want the solution to be cloud-based or whether you want a server on site. Well, there's no right or wrong solution, right? Or answer to that. It's what suits your company and your board the most. I have personally asked a solution provider the same exact question that Taz has mentioned. Right? Yep. Is it cloud-based or is it local server, right? Yep. And I think all three of us are lawyers, so we know that client confidentiality is a big issue for us. And some more senior lawyers would say that, if I have it at home, then it must be safer, right? Yep. If I have it in the cloud, right, then, it's not within my control. If it's at my house, my office, I can put it under lock and key and I can put everything to surround it. But as you know, Tess, technology is not like that anymore, right? There could be situations where it could be more secure on the cloud than in your house.
100%.
Right?
We get that a lot.
These are questions that the boards have to deal with. And that's just one example, right? Yep. And you get past that question about the location of the server, then it's about the interface, right? Yep. Which interface do you like more? The user experience, right? The functions, 100%. And then it comes to costs, right? And,
Definitely, definitely, yeah, and that's
yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up quickly because an important thing to note for our audience members that maybe aren't already using a board portal, there's a range to them, right? So there's certainly some products like Convene that are more towards the enterprise level, large companies, organizations with operations in multiple countries and different stuff like that. So you are going to have a spectrum of different types of providers, with more bells and whistles, with more simplistic formats for a board portal. So it really is important that you choose the right provider for you. And obviously, for me as the sales director for Convene, I always hope that's going to be Convene directly. But from time to time, I do actually advise clients to really look into the specifics, right? If they don't have the need for a lot of the tools that Convene provides, maybe they do need something that's a little lower level, and also cheaper, right? Cost is always going to play into the decision as well. So that's great. And Nitin, did you have anything else you wanted to add? I think we're going to close out the discussion and kind of
No,
move to
no.
the
So
Q&A.
I'm thankful to Raymond for having raised this question with you. But I would just add, Taj, is that there is a lot of education that needs to be done from technological companies. You need
Yep.
to educate people. Unfortunately, every company, and I will not blame them, but tries to showcase how best their product is and how worse the other company's product is. But
Yep.
basic education of on digitization, on cloud, on server base interfaces, security, there is not too much of material available on.
Yep.
You need to really educate the whole world. Unless you educate the world, how are they going to understand the use or the choice of technology?
Yeah, that's a great point, Nitin. And to be honest, part of today's the whole meeting experience was for that, is to get that information out there. And I hope we weren't too outward with promoting our own company and more talking about in general, because Convene isn't necessarily the right fit for every single company, right? You really do need to actually consider what are the needs that you have and all that stuff when you do that. So thank you guys for that. So I wanted to first of all thank you all for your wonderful insights. Obviously, I'm surrounded with a breadth of experience. So for me, a lot of this was a learning experience from three really really impressive gentlemen, and it was a pleasure for me to host you guys and whatnot. And I'm excited to now jump into the open forum and take some questions from the audience. So we will start with our first one here. So it looks like most of the questions are for the entire group, but I'm actually going to start with one. We do have one. Oh wait, no, actually, sorry, that one is for Zara, but we'll go into that one after then, I guess. So for the entire group, how do we prevent digitalization from causing people being laid off or being put on an indefinite furlough? So I think we did talk a little bit about that, but does anyone want to specifically, kind of quickly mention on that again?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I mentioned this
That's
at
right.
the start. I think the key thing that's important is to upskill, right?
Yep.
The employees. You upskill from, like I mentioned just now, you upskill from someone who is doing the work, preparing board packs from photocopying, to be able to scan and do the merging of the board pack on a digital solution. It could be a PDF, Adobe, an Acrobat, or whatever the software you use. But the ability to do that in a digital form is what they need to upskill to. And once they have that ability, then their job will continue to be there for them, and they will continue to play an important role in the company because they know how to do things in a different way. And the important thing is that to make sure that your staff and the employees are nimble and are always ready to adopt and adapt to a difference in environment.
Perfect. Yeah. No, definitely. That's great, Raymond. And yeah, I agree with you 100%. There is just,
I may, Taj,
yep, sorry,
I may just add to what Raymond has said. Upskilling is extremely important, but more importantly, what I am seeing is that we really need to tell our teams that learning is a process, and it doesn't stop. If I learned a system today, it should not stop today.
Yep.
As organizations, as particularly my organization, I would say that we are constantly engaging our teams into a learning exercise.
Yep.
It's a day-to-day affair for us. Learning new
Sure.
technologies, learning the new ways of because once your mindset goes into a learning mode, you
Yep.
automatically progress. The day
Yep.
your learning stops, your progress stops. And technology is, if
Agreed.
you are, I'm sure Taj, you will agree with me that technology is changing virtually every day.
Every day. Yep.
Today you yourself come out with one product. Tomorrow you may say, no, this is I have come up with a better product. So to
Yep.
my mind, if you really want the teams to be engaged during this time, the constant emphasis on learning, and that to humble learning.
Yep.
Doesn't be a task-based learning.
Yep.
It's a process we need to instill in the teams.
Yep. Yep. That's great. Yeah. Anything you want to add, Waweru, on that one, or
No, really, there's nothing
not really? Yeah.
really that I could say. Yeah, I think we're
Yep.
good. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So let's move on to the next question. So this is a good one, and I think it might maybe apply to me, but it's how do you handle the issue of recording of board meetings as part of the digitalization process and the phobia of some directors that do not want their opinions recorded? Okay, so does anyone want to tackle that, or do you want me to? I can go at that one if you want. So one of the things, so with your board meetings, and again, it depends on which solutions you're using, but I can speak from my own experience in Convene. You have a number of ways to record your meeting. So you can just record meeting minutes through the software and upload those as draft minutes where you can fully customize them before they get signed off on by the chairman and all that kind of stuff. So if there are, the people or directors that don't want their opinions necessarily recorded on every little thing, you do have that option of taking it one step at a time and not necessarily publishing everything out to everyone. So that's one. The other thing is, and one of the new features that we recently implemented was the, tying the audio and video directly into the Convene application. So you can actually, record your entire meeting process. So you can record the entire event, similar to like a webinar, and then draw on that later when you're doing your minutes and choose what to put in. So there are a lot of ways to mitigate the risk of people not having their opinions, recorded on the official record, because like I said, and we've alluded to this before, some things you say in a board meeting, you just expect them to be said amongst you and your board members, and it should never see the light of day outside of that. And so I think that's where this question was kind of going at. So anyone have anything to add to that, or anything that they want to, kind of, I guess, spin off that? Or
Well, one option is I understand the question about the recording the minutes of the board members who do not wish to get recorded.
Yep.
That unfortunately is not available in India. The secretary is supposed to record everything that transpires at the board meeting, transpire to truly and correctly. So the way I'm not saying the way out, but I think before the board meeting, an informal board meeting or informal discussion between the members will be very useful, so that they exchange their if there are certain very confidential issues or some questions being embarrassing questions to be raised, they all can be raised in a meeting prior to the board meeting, and then a proper structured board meeting goes in where everything that is discussed can get recorded.
Sure. Yep. Definitely. I think that covers it. Anyone else want to add anything, or?
No, I think the simple solution, I thought, is to just pause the recording, right? Say whatever you want to say, and then you get back on the record, right? So I guess the company secretary can say, okay, I want this part to be off the record. Then you click if you look at each of your Zoom or this current webinar, there's a record button, right?
Yep.
So you can 100%. Stop the recording and then just continue after the
Yep.
Say whatever unrecordable words that you need to say.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. I think it's important, at the outset, for the board to agree on those procedures, how it wants meetings recorded. Ultimately the official record, certainly in this jurisdiction, the official record is the minutes. the minutes that the secretary takes down. And there are different ways of writing minutes. There are some boards which prefer very long narrative type minutes. Others prefer, sort of more summarized resolution type minutes. But ultimately, you want something that is an official record. That one you can agree with, beforehand how it should be done, and then when they produce, there'll be no objection to some things went in when they shouldn't have gone in and that kind of thing.
Sure. Yep, 100%. And yeah, I agree with you. At the end of the day, that's a great insight. So we'll move on to the next question. So that is, the board definitely plays a big role in ensuring digitalization. At the end of the day, who is ultimately responsible for our board's digital success?
The technology provider.
The technology providers, Convene and people like us, right? To be honest, I see this, and again, it goes back to how your company is structured. We see a lot of corporate secretaries in North America specifically. I see a lot of corporate secretaries taking a very active leadership role in the board, not just from the board side, but also from the administrative side. And then you see other companies where the corporate secretary is more just involved at the board side. So it can really differentiate. But I think with anything, like anything that's project-based, or you're looking at something that's a long-term solution, it is good to promote or put in charge a specific champion within the organization, whether that's an administrative person, whether that's someone that serves in the board, or someone that's kind of bridges the gap, maybe someone in high management, high level management, like a CEO or CFO, someone like that. So it really ranges, but I do think that it is best to have one internal champion and maybe a secondary or tertiary piece as well, depending on the size. But that's my thought process and what I see most often. What do you guys think?
Taj, I may add I can give in 2 minutes a complete roadmap for digitization of companies, which we have done. I have recommended a couple of companies here. The first and foremost thing, as you absolutely rightly mentioned, you need an internal champion.
Yep.
I have recommended companies to get a tech guy who understands technology and hire them for a year or something as a technology person. Don't use the existing domestic person. If he is competent, nothing like it. If you have technological support internally, nothing like it. But you must hire a proper engineer or a person who understands softwares, and he should be hired with a specific objective of digitizing board or transforming to digital mode. And he should be asked to talk to various vendors, make presentation. Every company must at least take 3 to 4 proper detailed presentations of all the technology providers, understand the technology, understand how it helps us. Instead, rather than going in for the latest technology, go for the one which suits you, the one which is better, which is your requirement. I mean, startup companies, small SME companies, they don't need huge technologies. They need what is workable technology and which is understandable. And secondly, is once you get an internal champion, get the board members, get your team members, make them talk to it. And the more and more discourse you have internally, they may raise silliest questions, but we should welcome the most silliest question, have a proper discussion, deliberation, and then take a decision on this.
Agreed. Yeah, that's great, Nitin. Waweru, Raymond, anything to kind of add to that, or?
Okay, I think my perspective is, the board makes the decision to digitalize or not to digitalize. So in terms of ultimate responsibility, it will lie with the board, but the board needs to appoint a champion, and this, I agree with Nitin here, a champion who will guide in the process of digitalization, in terms of, recommending which system to use and why. The board needs to understand the features so that when the decision is made, the board actually owns it. And once it owns it, then, that responsibility really lies with the board. So it's important for, I think, the board members to realize that ultimately it is their decision.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. And actually, Zara had some comments on that point as well. If we could bring Zara back in for a second.
Thank you, Taz. Yes, I think that there are different role players in this situation. the board has to make informed decisions, but they will not always have the knowledge to do that. So it is the role of the corporate secretary to advise the board, to educate the board, to ensure that they have the right information so that they can make the right decisions. And often that also means that you have to bring in a technical digital expert because of the pace of technology, and because it's important that they choose the right kind of technology. It's important to have that expertise. So whether that is a member of the board or whether it is a consultant that is brought in, I think the important thing is that the board needs to be educated. The corporate secretary is the one who plays that role and can then advise in terms of the business itself, which would be the right solution for the board to make that decision. It is ultimately the board decision, but there are different role players who's going to be involved in this. And management would then be the one to implement whatever solution they have decided on. Thanks, Ted.
Absolutely. Yep. No, that's great. Great insight there, Zara. And actually, it's a very natural progression to the next question, which I think I'll actually answer. So the question is, digitalization may be a topic not all the board members may not have a lot of expertise in. Should our board have a tech or cyber subcommittee? So Zara was actually kind of talking about that a little bit, and Natina as well. Is do you want to have someone internal to champion this? And the answer typically should be yes. And again, in large organizations that have a complex and robust IT infrastructure and team in that regard, it will be, most of the time, it'll be an internal employee. For a smaller organization like a startup, for instance, they may need to hire someone outside, or they just have to, kind of bootstrap. And again, in startup world, it's not always as simple as saying, oh, I'm going to hire someone for 5K to advise me on this, right? So in that case, then, you may need to kind of try to be the jack of all trades and learn it and try your best to make as informed of a decision as you can. But, we already touched on this. It shouldn't just be look at one solution and say, yep, that ticks off the boxes. It should be more of an approach where you're evaluating multiple solutions. You're looking at the pros and cons of each, and what's going to fit next with your staff, right? Because there's no point implementing a solution if at the end of the day your board members are never going to be able to use it, or if your administrative staff are not willing to adopt it. So there does have to be that internal champion to really drive it forward. But from the tech perspective, there usually is, and from my side, I always usually have conversations with the business side, and then I have conversations with the IT side. So those are two different considerations. So business side certainly has and Zara alluded that management will usually make the final decision because they're the ones that are in the system all the time and working in it. But it certainly is a case where you do need to get the input from the tech side as well, and your internal processes and internal security controls and configurations as well need to be considered. So did anyone want to add to that? I think I hit that mostly with the nail on the head there, but is there anything else anyone wants to add to that?
No, I just a very small point. I think the board should should be open to as many professionals, experts, and advisors that they can can be to be exposed to, right?
Sure.
There can never be enough of these experts that the board can tap onto, and if there isn't a particular expertise in digitization on the board, then it is always good to have a subcommittee or an expert to be brought in to drive this process and to educate the members. So I absolutely agree with all of you that you need to have someone. If there's no existing expertise on the board, then for sure you need someone else to be brought in to bring about the change.
Definitely, yeah. And so this next question actually is I'm going to put you guys a little bit on the spot in terms of what you guys are currently using, but what are the digital solutions that you guys use in your boardroom settings? So, hopefully Convene is the top answer here, but what other technologies are you guys currently kind of engaging with for your board?
So we are JSA in my firm. We are 35 equity partners and almost 80 partners and 330 lawyers. So,
Yep.
and we had adopted, Taj, you will be surprised. We had adopted this virtual meetings and technology in 2018, before even
Wow.
the
Good.
pandemic.
Yep. Yep.
I'm very humbly I'm saying this. I'm not exaggerating or
Yeah.
boasting about this, but thanks to Microsoft on this, they
Yep.
really gave a lot of they educated us a lot on Teams, the software
Yep.
Teams.
Teams. Yep.
And the day when we had our first part, we are in 7 locations in India. So when we had a
Yep.
first board meeting of 35 people on Teams, so we were so excited. I said, look, why are we traveling in the first instance?
Yeah, yeah. For sure. Yeah, no, Teams. And yeah, you know what, we're a software company, we use Teams too, right? Like, it's not just, we're convened, and we're a board portal solution. We utilize all sorts of different technologies ourselves as well. Well, Weru, what about you guys? Are you guys using any board portal, any other forms of communication?
Yeah, well, in terms of holding meetings, it's Zoom is quite popular.
Yep.
Teams is also used certainly within the organization.
Yep.
But when we look at board portals uh, for sharing of board packs and all that, we're currently using Board Vantage. Board
Okay.
Vantage,
Yeah.
that's the Nasdaq
Yep.
system. Yeah, which works pretty well.
Yep.
And then our meetings are on Zoom, and no issues so far.
That covers it. Yep.
Yes.
And what about you, Raymond?
Well, at CSIS, which is the Chartered Secretaries Institute of Singapore, we are trial running 2 systems.
Okay.
One is from Trusted Source, and the other one is from Convene.
Yep.
So we're still in the training phase, so
Yep.
I haven't got much to update on that yet.
Yep,
But in my capacity as a director of a company on the listed on the Singapore Stock Exchange, for that company, we're still not in the digital solution
Sure.
yet, right?
Yep.
We haven't adopted anything. It's a more traditional business.
Yep.
And back to what I mentioned, it really whether the board finds that there's a need to get a high-end digital solution for board meetings, or are they okay with adopting a more low-end solution, right, that fits their purpose? So we are exploring certain options, but right now that particular board is not using a digital solution.
Sure.
Doesn't mean that to the members, doesn't mean that that every company must have a digital solution, right?
Sure.
It is what it is, suits and what it is the company needs that's most important.
Yep, definitely. Yep,
But
that's great.
may I just add?
Yeah.
So, during this pandemic, two important things I have started doing personally, because we are at home. So I started
Yep.
learning piano, and my
Oh,
teacher
wow.
teaches my teacher teaches piano to me on Google Meet.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And I
Nice.
also started a separate forum called as India Power Talk,
Okay.
and which is completely hosted on Zoom.
Yep. Great. Yeah, I know
And
that's awesome.
with friends, I use Skype.
Skype. Yep. There you go. Yeah. So yeah, there's, we all are using all these different tools. I know, my brother just moved back to Dubai. So, we use FaceTime, and all these different tools. So yeah, that's great. Actually, the next question is for myself. And I don't know who it's from. Actually, it was anonymous. It was, how does Convene differ from other competitors' solutions? So we differentiate ourselves in a number of different ways. One of the main things, and one of the key differentiators, is our security. The clients that we already work with, entail some of the, government organizations, banks, publicly traded companies, where security is above all else. So security is really one of our really, really strong suits. We utilize a lot of different security protocols, and that's not just in the back end. There are, a number of things that are integrated into the solution, like single sign-on, Active Directory for authentication. We have other things like SMS, one-time passwords, and stuff like that. So you can get really, really specific on the security aspect. Another way that we differentiate ourselves is that we are a software development company. So we are a CMMI level 5 appraised software development company. So what that means is that we didn't just buy our solution off the next guy like some of our competitors have. So a lot of our competitors have just bought the next solution and the next solution, and they buy their client lists, and they don't necessarily always put the product first. They're more about profit and whatnot. And of course we are too, but we certainly put the product first, and we continue to adapt it. We listen to our clients. So every year our clients are giving us new ideas, new things that they'd like to see, things that would make their lives easier, and we implement those. So we do multiple software releases every year with new features, and so we never stay stagnant. So that's another way that I think we differentiate ourselves. And then the final way, which is a really truly a testament to our team, is our customer support. 24/7, 365. Within, like, it's lightning quick. Like we actually did a performance testing on some support stuff the other day, and it was like we wanted to see if support is responding in less than 5 minutes. In most cases it was less than 2 minutes. So the response is lightning quick. We have a 97% first call resolution rate. So our people that are responding are experts. So those are a few of the ways, and I don't want to toot our horn too much, so I'll kind of move on from that, but those are a few of the ways that we differentiate ourselves. Now, going to the next question, this is actually for all the speakers. Should companies consider changes in board members' compensation due to the changing role of the board due to digitalization? Well, that's an interesting one. Yeah.
I think yes, because this will, I'm sure about, and Raymond will agree with me, he's on the board of a lot of other companies. Even I am on the board of a couple of companies. Not for us, but at least this whole process is going to increase your time engagement with the company, and responsibility is going to get increased. You need to spend really extra time on learning all this stuff, and also participating more. So I would think with the changing role, definitely if suitable compensation is increased or support is increased, more than compensation, you need to give them a lot of technical support, maybe an additional secretary, technical secretary, or some executive support who understand, who explains that handholding. If that is done, I think it will improve the efficiency of the board member.
For sure. Yep. Do you guys agree? Waweru, do you think that we should be paying our board members a little more because they might have to take on more?
Yeah, I think consideration needs to be given to that. I think we spoke earlier about the heavy involvement the board is having to get into in view of digitalization. The time spent, the kind of information they have to analyze, and also there's the greater responsibility, even both from a regulatory perspective, issues of cybersecurity. I think those are areas that would come into consideration when you look at the remuneration of the board members.
Sure. Yep. Raymond, anything to add, or I think
and I'm not speaking just out of self-interest, but I agree with both of the other panelists that for sure the board members' compensation needs to be commensurate with the increase in the workload, the increase in engagement, and the increased demand on their time, right? From the digitization process, and board members being more engaged in the entire governance of the company. But having said that, I just want to put a different view on this question, is that this is the COVID-19 situation, right? A lot of boards are asking their board members to take a cut from their fees to stand together with the rest of the company, right? In these difficult times. So, it kind of, even though the time span has increased and the involvement has increased, it has to be balanced out with the current economic situation that the company, specific company is facing. And, there might have to be a balance from that perspective.
That's a great insight, Raymond. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think, you know, in with the regular staff of a company, they might be pretty upset if their friend, you know, down the road or that's in the company also gets laid off, but the directors are all getting a bump in their remuneration, right? So there is a balance. There certainly is a balance there where you have to weigh the, you know, the public, the best interest of the company, also take into consideration the time. You know, at the end of the day, the directors that are serving, most of them are, you know, very distinguished, similar to you three, and they deserve to get paid. You know, I have a saying, I always say it, and I feel it's a very relevant saying, is you get what you pay for, right? So, you know, if you go to a really nice steakhouse and spend $100 on a steak versus $25 on a steak, you know what you're getting, right? There's a reason it's, you know, 3 or 4 times more expensive. It's because of what you're getting, and so there's certainly a balance there. Now, our next question actually is a really interesting one, and I'm curious as to, you know, the different regions on this one. Do you think digitalization of the boardroom will continue, or do you think we'll revert back more to face-to-face meetings after the COVID-19 pandemic passes? So I'll leave that to anyone.
Speaking for me, I'll tell you, in India, we have three types of companies. One are the MNCs operating in India. Second are the large Indian companies, and the third are the SME, MSME, or the startup companies. Let's treat them differently. To my mind, the MNCs who are operating in India or who are in joint ventures, they may do a hybrid. They will do a hybrid because they will want larger participation from their foreign counterpart, from their parent company, their technical people. So they may continue a hybrid model. I mean, there will be regular physical meetings, but they will also allow participation through audio or visual. That's number one. Indian companies who have adopted now this who are seeing the benefits of digital meetings, who are seeing the larger participation, serious engagement, they will also probably do a hybrid and continue. I'm not sure about the small SME or startup companies because they will be first concerned with the cost. If the technology providers can provide them a better solution at an absolutely affordable cost, trust me, they will drive this movement very long way, because they will also see benefit out of using this technology, because ultimately it is going to benefit the company. So I would treat all the three maybe differently.
Yep. Sure. Yeah. No, definitely. And actually, we wanted to get Zara's take on this from the South African perspective. How do you feel, Zara, in terms of the pandemic affecting the digitalization? Do you think we will revert more back to traditional meeting formats, or do you think it'll be similar to what Nitin foresees in India, where it'll be kind of a bit of a hybrid model for different companies?
I think that the pandemic certainly is going to have an effect on that decision when it comes to making a decision around that. Cost is an issue. So, and what I've heard from many corporates is that, you know, they are thinking about how much money they actually used to spend on traveling, travel costs, accommodation costs, and thinking that actually it didn't work so badly to do these virtual meetings. I also think that there are so many efficiencies and advantages to doing virtual meetings that might well be the way certainly that big companies will be going. For smaller companies, that may not be an option. So I think it's going to be a very individual decision, certainly. But having said that, I do think that digitalization is something that is here to stay. And companies will have to start considering that within the way in which business models are changing, the business landscape is changing. They're going to have to consider changing with that and adapting. So it's possible that this could become, over the longer term, this could become the preferred way of doing meetings, provided it fits in with the regulatory frameworks, of course.
Great. Yeah. Waweru, Raymond, anything to add on that, or? from
Yeah,
your perspectives?
yeah, I think the basically covered. I think what we'll see more is the hybrid
Yep.
mode of doing meetings, and when people weigh the costs and benefits, before
Yep.
and post COVID, I think we shall not be reversing the gains. Let me call them the gains of
Sure.
digitalization. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I'm interested to get Raymond's take on this because, India, Kenya, South Africa, these are very spaced out countries, and Singapore is a very small country with, a really robust economy. But, in my experience, I lived in Singapore. I felt like no one ever wanted to talk on the phone. They only wanted to meet in person for everything, not just board meetings. I mean, for anything and everything that if you're selling them, come to the office, right? So that's why I'm really curious what Raymond thinks. Once this pandemic is completely, passed, do you think Singapore will leave these options for hybrid meetings on the table, or will the regulation revert to what it was before?
Let me just maybe speak from the perspective of how the Singapore Stock Exchange have tried to guide the listed companies and
Sure.
the shareholders. The Singapore Stock Exchange, because of the pandemic, have allowed all the listed companies to hold their meetings entirely virtually, right? Yep. These listed companies will do a webcast of the meeting. Proxy forms all submitted and counted beforehand with the results already in place before the start of the meeting. And over the past 9 months or so of these virtual meetings, the feedback from the shareholders is that there is a lack of shareholder and board engagement, right? Face-to-face engagement, discussion, questions to the board about what they are thinking about, what are the plans for the company, so to speak. And so the stock exchange then tried to encourage its listed companies to include some questions and answer feedback, kind of a live feedback element to the webcast, right? To improve the shareholder engagement. Now, what has the listed companies gone to do is that they have taken that even a step further by saying, look, we will have the webcast, right? So people that want to stay at home can stay at home and still watch us. We will have that question answer chatbot question to let people that are at home to ask us questions, and we will answer the questions live, right? Yep. And we will, on top of that, allow a limited number of shareholders to attend the meetings in person so that they can see us, right? We can see them that, they have the confidence in us, but only a limited number. What the number is, it could be 50, definitely not the 500,000 people meetings anymore, right? It's going to be a small group, select group. If you write in fast enough, you get a spot. But that's what I think it's going to be the process, right? Yep. And we have reached the process that we are moving into beyond a hybrid, right? We are looking into a meeting where it's the participation can come in many, many different forms. Yep. Right. And it doesn't have to be a virtual meeting or a face-to-face meeting. It can be both, or it could be interactive in some other ways, right? Yep. Sure. I think some other companies are considering a phone line where they can, people can dial in, right? Yeah. And something like that. So there are all these options. And I think all these options are on the table for companies and for the boards to consider. And that's where I think they're going to head to. It is going to be the next meeting, right? Is going to be a meeting that, will encompass everything possible: video, audio, and physical engagement. So you've got your full sensory, everything covered. Yep. So that's my view of what's going to happen in a couple of months' time. I think some of the solutions are already planning for the listed company annual general meeting season in a few months. Yep. I mean, I think we'll see a lot of different kinds of meetings, right? Different kind of engagement with the shareholders and the board members as well. And that's and just to wrap up, I see that as the next wave, a next step in digitization, and I think that would probably cause the board to start thinking about how they can, what more they can do with their own meetings, and how to get to the next level.
Yep. No, that's great, Raymond. And yeah, and I think a lot of companies are going to have to maintain a bit of a flexible approach as they ease back into some of the regulations being restricted or going away. Sorry. So everyone has their own considerations, right? So maybe someone in your household is more at risk, so maybe digital makes more sense for you or virtual, right? So there's all these things, and so I think flexibility is going to be a big part of that. So I think we just have a couple more questions, guys. Actually, I think we might be done all of our questions here. Yeah, we are actually. So as we get set to close our event today, I wanted to take a moment to give a special thanks to each of our panelists. So Zara, Weweru, Raymond, Natine, thank you all so much for taking the time to speak with us today. Your insights were very much appreciated. I also want to give a huge thank you to the team at CSIA and my team here at Convene for everything they did to prepare for the event. A lot obviously goes on in the background for this, and I certainly appreciated all the hard work from both of our dedicated teams. Now, as we all know, 2021 is going to be a year filled with challenges. And whether we like it or not, digitalization in the boardroom is no longer just a discussion for the future. It has now become a present day reality, and we all have to adapt to it. We at Convene have seen expansions in the use case of our products past the board as remote collaboration and meetings are quickly becoming the new normal. If any of our audience members are interested in learning more about how Convene can assist you with either your board portal needs or your AGM solution, we feel free to contact us. You can visit our website at www.asisconvene.com. For more info on the CSIA and their role, please visit their website at www.csiaorg.com. And with that, I'd like to quickly send it back over to Zara for a quick closing statement before we wrap up. Zara?
Thank you, Taz. Yeah, I think the panelists have all alluded to the fact that with digitalization, it is not something that's going to happen overnight. Much like with governance, it's a journey and not an end. We've seen a lot of rapid changes in business landscapes due to the rapid pace of digitalization and developments in digital technology. We've seen new business models that's been developed, and of course that brings with it new complexities. So boards are constantly going to be under pressure to have the agility to adapt to all these different changes, because they need to mitigate the risks that come with that, and they need to minimize the impact on business operations. So I think there is a need to think about digital transformation as a long-term benefit and not as a short-term option, because it's definitely going to be around to stay. Before I close off, I just would like to extend a very sincere gratitude to all the players who's made this event possible today. Our expert panelists, thank you to Raymond, to Weweru, and to Natine for sharing your insights and your experiences with us. To Taz for moderating the session so smoothly and efficiently. And to our CSIA Exco members for all their contributions and their support. A special thank you must be given to everyone at the Convene team, Dustin, Joy, Krina, Aaron, Vincent, Kimberly. It's been an absolute pleasure to work with the team, as professional and as efficient as you are. And of course, a very, very big thank you to our audience members for joining us today. I hope you will be going away today with the knowledge and insights and experiences that has been shared by our panelists, and that will facilitate your decision-making when you decide to go digital. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you for that, Zara. I appreciate the warm thanks, and the same to the CSIA team. So I'd like to quickly say a quick thanks as well to everyone, and say what a pleasure it was for me to moderate this event. I really appreciated all of the engagement from the audience. We had a lot of really great questions, and I actually look forward to hosting more events like this later this year. So please stay tuned as we explore other topics and the ever-changing landscape of corporate governance governance. Now, in line with Convene's commitment to help organizations achieve better board governance as they go digital, the Convene team is offering free use of the Convene board portal for 90 days to all registrants who stayed until the end of the broadcast. So you'll receive an email shortly from the Convene team to avail yourself of this offer. So feel free to get in touch with us and take us up. We'd love to have you try the software out and see if it fits your needs. And with that said, once again, on behalf of Convene, the CSIA, and our panelists, thank you so much for joining us today, and we wish everyone all the best and much success in 2021.